I will have you know that I am a perfectly respectable size for an Oompa Loompa.
An Oompa what now?
In fact, in Loompa-land, I am regarded as something of a whopper. They call me Lofty. So I will thank you to stop gawping at me as though I was something unpleasant you'd found in your handkerchief. I find it uncomfortable and, frankly, rude.
This is Flick Flops.
Welcome back to Flick Flops, the podcast where we sing the praises of good films and dance on the graves of the bad. This week, we discuss Wonka, the 2023 musical starring Timothée Chalamet, Hugh Grant, Olivia Colman, Keegan-Michael Key, and many others. In the film, we follow poor Willy Wonka as he dreams of opening his own chocolate shop and faces an evil chocolate cartel who wants to shut him down. Is Wonka a tasty morsel of sugary goodness? Or does it go over like that one nasty bit of mixed chocolate that you get in one of those gift boxes that you take a bite of and then you're like, this is crap. And you
Like, oh, that's strawberry.
Who put that in there? Anyway, find out on this week's episode of Flick Flops.
Flick Flops. Wonka, man, I was excited. I don't know if you know this, Gary. I'm sure we've talked about it, but one of my all-time favorite films in the world is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
And I was excited. Well, I'll say excited. I never, it's like when you love a classic film, like you don't ever need to see a remake of it because like you can't touch it, don't ruin it. And I never watched the Tim Burton version.
Yeah.
Until last night I started to watch it.
So did you watch that because you saw this one and you're like, what am I missing? Or
right, I did. So I watched this one. Let's get through this and we'll talk about it. But
okay,
anyway, I the beloved Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is one of my all-time favorite films. I watch it often. I was hesitant about this, but excited slightly.
Yeah.
When you put it in the list, it's like, all right, I'm pulling the trigger on Wonka, and here we are. So let's go over some numbers with the 2023 Wonka. This came out, I think just came out recently, right? Was it December?
Fairly recently. I don't know what the release date is off the top of my head, but yeah, it's been out very, very long.
I feel like it was December. Anyway, Rotten Tomatoes has this currently sitting at 83 and 91 with the audience, which is interesting to me because I thought the critics would have had this a little higher. I mean, it's fresh. That's not an issue. So I thought it'd be a little higher with the critics. The budget for this was $125 million, and currently to date, box office is $541 million. So it has made its money. Written by Simon Barnaby and Paul King, who also directed the film. Paul King is also the director. These two are both known for the Paddington films. I've never seen those. I don't know if you have.
Yeah, I think I watched the first one with the kids a while back.
Yeah, Barnaby had wrote Paddington 2. Paul King was involved in the writing on both of them, and of course he directed them. So these two are kind of friends, and I think Paul King's kind of pulling him along. That's it for the numbers. There's nothing of note in Paul King's career that I thought was worth bringing up, minus the Paddington. So that was all I have for that. I don't know if you want to get into the ratings on this thing. Now we can do that.
That's totally up to you. Yeah, we can do that and then talk about it.
I'm ready. I'll go first. Ratings on this thing, Gary. I give this a whopping 1 poop. I loved this movie. I absolutely loved this movie.
Okay. Well, then you did a nice, quick, short one. I'm going to intro it a little bit and just say that I had zero interest in this movie. Not for any particular reason other than maybe I don't know that we need any more Wonka. I enjoyed the first movie. I can't remember if I liked the Tim Burton version. I feel like I probably thought it was okay. I know Chloe, my youngest, loves it. And she does not want to watch the original, but whatever. So anyway, I'll just say it wasn't for anything in particular. I just was like, I'll eventually see it. This is not at the top of my list, but you said you want to do it. I'm like, of course,
Yeah.
So I went into it with not really very high expectations. And I will say that just to move this along, I ended up on 2TP. I did think about one, and there was just a couple things that kind of bugged me about it, but I landed on 2. I actually
Yeah.
did enjoy the movie quite a bit, which surprised me. So
Well, that's good. Yeah. Yeah. I had zero expectations, and it's funny because I never think of these films as musicals. And when you texted me back, like, "Oh, I'm glad you want to do a musical," and I was like, oh, "I guess they are considered musicals." I never, I don't know why I break down. Like, I consider Grease a musical,
yeah,
but not Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, even though it's filled with musical numbers.
right. Yeah,
I don't know, but this one was, and I just sat back and I was so wrapped up in the film. I don't have many notes. I sat there, just watched it, and I'll say this, and again, it's maybe just me being a little sentimental, but it just took me back to being a kid. This movie was just fun for me.
yeah,
I
yeah,
was wrapped up in the character. I loved the casting of Timothée Chalamet, who I wasn't sure about, because to me, Wonka's always going to be Gene Wilder, which I know we can't change that,
yeah,
but that's just it's burned into my brain. But I totally buy into this guy as Wonka, and I thought it was a fun, entertaining movie. And I do have a critic here that I picked, and only because I picked this just because I slightly disagree with this person. I have Stephanie Zacharek. You'll see it, Gary. It's in the
I always love
Zach.
your pronunciations of stuff.
Well, you see the spelling. I'm guessing it's Zacharek. You can. Anyway, she's from Time Magazine. She is a top critic from Rotten Tomatoes, and her critique of this film is, quote, Wonka is carefully calibrated to bring joy. But do we want our joy to be something capable of being manipulated with buttons and knobs, with grand but somehow flat-looking sets? End quote. And I disagree with bland and flat-looking sets. I don't know what film you were watching.
Yeah, me too.
This film just popped, and when the color came, the color was there. And I mean, flat, I don't know. But again, I think critics are total douchebags.
Lord and Lady Douchebag.
Present company excluded. We say this. I mean, this is something you've always said, Gary, and I really always hold this when I'm watching films. Sometimes you just have to enjoy the film. Were you entertained? And God, yes, I was.
Yeah,
My only 2 notes I have on this film was I truly, I loved Keegan-Michael Key as the chief.
yeah,
And I loved him slowly getting fatter.
yeah,
Without giving anything away, there's a reason why. And you watch the film, and he plays it so well, and I really enjoy him as an actor. And then, of course, all of my friends know I have an odd love of Hugh Grant, and
Yeah.
I loved him being the Oompa Loompa. I thought he played it perfectly. And I'll reference the Tim Burton film. So I started watching the Tim Burton version after last night. It was late at night, and Teresa had gone to bed. I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. I love Burton. I'm okay with Johnny Depp. Let's do this. And it starts off pretty good. It's fascinating to me. And he does a very good job. And I think if anybody was to tackle Willy Wonka, Burton was really somebody who should, because his brain sees the world very differently.
Yeah.
But I found myself, as the movie was moving along, I just, because it's more of a remake of what we know.
Right.
The Gene Wilder. It's more of a remake, not a different version. And it was okay. I turned it off because I was getting a little bored with it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna finish it, but I just didn't finish it last night. But I was just like, I don't know.
My recollection of that one was that, and this is why before we started recording, I wanted to go back and read a little bit, because I actually did read this book, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and Charlie and the Glass Elevator, or whatever.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly what the second one was called, as a child. So it had been a long time. I would like to go back and read these again, just to kind of see it, because I didn't know if there's any hint of what the background of Willy Wonka is in any of it, because I wondered how much they made up for this. And I'm guessing probably the entire thing, but
a lot.
Because I know that the story of the Oompa Loompas is different in the book than the way it played out in this. But anyway, to go back to the Tim Burton one real quick, I kind of recall watching that one and thinking, there's a sense of wonder with the first movie, and definitely when you're reading it as a kid, there's that childlike sense of magic and wonder that you get with that stuff.
Yes.
I felt that way about the first movie, but I remember, and again, it's so hard to think about because you're watching it as an adult. Watching the Tim Burton version, I felt like they made Willy Wonka like super creepy, if I remember.
Yeah.
And I never really thought of him as creepy from the first movie, but maybe looking back, I don't know. I'd have to see it again, but my recollection of it is not that. And I remember thinking that Johnny Depp was just creepy in the part.
Yes. Yeah.
And I did not get that from Wonka. To bring it back to Wonka, I thought really, I don't even know why I gave it 2. I think everything about this was actually really good.
Yeah. Even the songs. I mean, like Teresa was watching it with me and she had zero interest. I mean, not zero, but she's like, she doesn't care that we watch these films. She's like, what movies you're watching now? What kind of crazy, because she always talk about like Terrifier and these bad, Nick Cage. I put Wonka on and she was like kind of watching it, but kind of doing some work. And then she kept looking up and she's like, well, that's a catchy little number, isn't it? I said,
Yeah,
it is. It's well done. And
yeah,
to echo what you said, the sense of wonder, like I really, like I said, for a moment, I felt like, God, I'm just lost in this movie. And I love this. It made me want to go. I haven't read the books and now I want to go read the books because I just love this. And I thought again, like what you said, Tim Burton and Depp just made him seem weird.
yeah.
And I know that's Burton's forte, but I mean, I don't know. And I'll finish it, but it just seemed very odd. The
Yeah.
Wonka part. The rest of the movie, the other characters seemed fine in the Burton version. What I'd seen, I mean, Grandpa Joe was a fun character, but Wonka himself just seemed like such a weirdo.
Right.
And man, anyway,
Does not seem so in this movie.
no, he seems so full of joy and just wonderment and magic.
Right.
And Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa was fantastic because he's smug enough.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was fun. And my end note on this is I would love and would willingly pay to see a sequel to this movie if they ever do one. And there is talk of a sequel. There's nothing that's been confirmed. But Chalamet said he would definitely do a sequel. And the writer and director had said that he's open to it. He worked in my research, he worked with the Dahl family when he was writing the script. Because there wasn't anything about Wonka's background, like you were talking about. So he worked with them, and like Wonka's one of his one of Dahl's grandsons was a consulting producer on this film, and kind of worked with the family to make sure he honored what Dahl would have liked. So I think he did a decent job, and I applaud him. And again, I would recommend this film to everybody. Watch it.
Yeah, I thought it was entertaining. I'll say one thing about musicals real quick because I was talking to Tara about this prior to us recording, and I mentioned that that I actually found myself enjoying the movie quite a bit. She's like, I don't know if I really am that into musicals, and I was like, and she was like, oh yeah, but Grease. So she mentioned the same thing you did. I was like, I don't know if I don't know what it is, but I think maybe being musicians and writing songs, that there's an appreciation with the way that they're able to do that in certain musicals. I don't think all of them are great by any stretch, but I thought they did a really good job in this one. And I think that was another thing that I kind of appreciate, knowing sort of how difficult writing anyway is. To be able to pull that together and make something catchy and work with, the story. But I enjoyed it. In fact, I think I'm gonna do an unprecedented move and move my 2 to a 1 because when we talk about it, or I'm remembering parts about it that I'm like, maybe I was a little harsh, even though it's just 1 TP.
I mean, I would watch this again if my daughter wanted to sit and watch the film. I'm like, let's go. I would watch it without hesitation.
Yeah.
And the same way that I would watch. I mean, and I urge you to get. Who did you say it was? Chloe. Get her to watch the original.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to her about it before, especially after back when we watched the Tim Burton one. I would think that she would like it more, but it's funny, when you were a kid, it was hard to watch those old westerns and stuff that your
Oh,
parents were,
we're going to be talking about a movie after this, the next one that was hard to watch.
And so yeah, so when you're younger, it's like you want the flashiness and all this stuff, which I will say now I kind of enjoy going back and watching some of these older ones that we're doing for like the cult classics and retro rewind, because I think that effects and stuff are overdone today, and sometimes you lose the soul of a story.
Yeah.
And when it's just nothing but effects, and it's such burnout now from all of that they can do pretty much anything, but the story lacks. So it's nice to see when those things work out, but it's nice to go back and see things that may not have looked great, but the story's good. So
yeah,
I think revisiting some of that.
I think you had to. I'll say this, and some people, I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with me, but I think acting, the art of acting was much better for the most part, not all, but for the most part back in time, because you had to be a better actor because you did not have special effects to lean on.
Yeah.
So you had to convey your story and sell your story.
As long as you don't go too far back.
Yeah, well, I mean, they got 22 skidoo, you know what I'm saying? I talk real fast. Listen, Dollface, take a memo. That doesn't convey anything to me, but you're on amphetamines. But
shoot, yeah, that's true.
I mean, we could talk about some shitty acting like Billy Jack anytime you want to.
Oh yeah, oh my.
But my point is you watch something like It's a Wonderful Life or Citizen Kane, these classics.
Yeah.
And I'll even say the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Gene Wilder was perfection in that role.
Yeah.
I don't think you could have got anyone that was a more lovable weirdo.
Hey, that does remind me, because I did an edit to one of our other episodes that is coming up soon earlier, and because Wonka actually came, not Wonka, but Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory came up in discussion, and we signed off on that one with the "Good day, sir."
It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. You stole fizzy lifting drinks. You bumped into the ceiling, which now has to be washed and sterilized, so you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Yeah.
I loved it in this movie when they dropped that in there with the Oompa Loompa, with Hugh Grant's character saying that.
Did you catch a couple of the little nods in the movie? Where Chalamet at one point says, scratch that, reverse it. That was from the original. That was a nod to Gene Wilder's line in the
I don't remember original. That one. Yeah.
I was reading up on that. There was a couple other things and I didn't write them down, where they just try to drop little hints to nod to the original film to show. Well, and that, I guess, to show the idiosyncrasies of Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
I mean, the purple jacket was always the velvet jacket was there. The cane. I'm drawing a blank what the other one was now. But anyway, again, I would see a sequel to this, and I'm a fan of this movie and recommend it to anybody.
And good acting. A lot of the cast was great. I mean, just about I can't think of anybody that was bad in it. I thought it was really well cast.
No. So. I would say if I had to pick the one that I thought was, again, your nitpick. If you're going to pick someone who was the worst, let me catch the guy's name because I always forget his name. Matt Lucas.
Was he the bleacher dude?
No, he was.
I know who you're talking about.
He was the third chocolatier guy, and his lines are always. I've seen him in other things. He was in like Bridesmaids and shit like that, and he's on the Great British Bake Off. Not that I watch it.
I can't get up close to the mic on that one.
Just in case I'm just saying, smoking any turds lately.
Spiking the audio so it screws up later.
Pow pow!
Fix that in editing.
Leaving something for Gary to do later. The other thing I thought, did you watch to the end, the credits?
Yeah.
Did you see the Oompa Loompa song?
Yeah.
That Hugh Grant did. That was also a little nod to the original.
Yeah.
they wanted to make sure they put that in there anyway.
Yeah, I
that's all.
could've
Like,
used more Hugh
and that's not a knock on Matt Lucas either. I just think if I had to pick someone who I just didn't,
I thought you were going to say that Bleacher, the guy that played Bleacher. And I was thinking, remember back in the early Disney cartoons when there'd be that I don't know what the character's name was, but there's that brutish,
yeah,
like, goofy looking
yeah, absolutely.
dog that's like the big bad. That's who he reminded me of in that movie.
That's a good call. That's a good call.
Maybe I'll put up a side by side on here in editing. Anyway, well, that's it. I think close the book on Wonka, and I think we both thought that was a sugary treat.
It was a good film, and I say to you, Gary, good day.
And I say to you, good day. Like, comment, subscribe, and let us know if you saw Wonka, and what did you think about it. Thanks, everybody.
Scribble, scribble, scribble. I said good day.
This has been a Touch of Madness production, brought to you by the creative minds at Tommy Twins Media.